everybody. Welcome to a special edition of UGA Sports Live. This is the Jackson Cantwell five-star offensive tackle decision. It's May 13th, 2025. Looking at the on the screen there, we have the live feed from Nixa Athletics, Nixa High School. I'm joined by our recruiting, what's the best way to put this, Jed? To include the abuse you've taken. Our recruiting whipping boy, Jed May, who's actually on the road right now. Where are you at?
Yeah, just got to Sprayberry High School. So Georgia commit Keelan Jones is here. I think they're still kind of pursuing Jordan Edmonds, who's committed to Alabama. So just pulled into the parking lot and ready to watch another commitment go down.
Well, we don't know where he's committed to. A lot of people are really worried that Georgia's last minute or Miami's last minute machinations have knocked Georgia out of the catbird seat. Kind of explain why everyone thought that Jackson Cantwell was kind of, I don't say a shoe-in, but that Georgia was the leader for Jackson Cantwell going into this announcement.
Yeah, well, he was supposed to commit a couple weeks ago. I believe it was April 30th, and then he postpones that decision to today, May 13th. Schedules a Georgia unofficial for May 10th, Mother's Day weekend, so brings the family down. We saw the pictures on social media where he's hanging out with Jared Curtis and he's at dinner with Kirby Smart. And, you add all that up and you're like, okay, Georgia getting the last visit seems pretty good. And then the intel we were hearing coming out of the weekend was that Georgia really liked its position. Intel had pointed to a decision maybe being made as of Sunday night. So maybe that was true, maybe it wasn't, but yeah, there was plenty of optimism on the Georgia side coming out of the weekend. And again, when you add in all the factors at play, there was plenty of good reason for it. But as we've seen in so many of these recruitments, nothing is final until we get a commitment, and even not then. So you knew Miami and Oregon wouldn't go down easy, and it seems like Miami might have come in with the money here to sweeten the deal at the end. But we'll see here in I guess just a couple minutes.
Well, I doubt it'll go as fastly as Jared Curtis's did. Shout out to Jared Curtis. He'll be my all-time favorite commit, even if he flips somewhere else. A kid that says, from start to finish, 30 seconds, the announcement. I love it. I imagine this particular event could take a while. Looks like they're having it at the auditorium. A lot of his classmates, teammates are in there. This has the feel of a production. And I get it. I mean, how often does school in Missouri have the number one player in the nation? So,
and again, when I messaged Jackson on Sunday trying to see what time he'd be committing today, and then I said, hey, would love to talk Monday. I know you're busy, and he said, yeah, I've got exams and I'm finishing up a commitment video tomorrow, meaning Monday. So, that was 8:00 Sunday night or whatever it was. So, it seems like that made me think anyway that he's like, okay, he's got a decision made. He's going to film a video on Monday. We're going to go from there. And again, when you add up everything we'd heard, and then you're hearing Sunday night making you think a decision's been made, it seems like you'd be optimistic if you're Georgia. But there's a lot. I just noticed how many people were there. He's got a huge crowd. There might be half of Nixa might be in that auditorium. Looks like.
I'm sure every one of his classmates, finished up with exams today, is plowed in there. It's what the local time's 2:45.
2:45, yeah.
So they're probably done with exams. So anybody that's free, go down to the auditorium and watch this. Know that it's going to be carried everywhere. Hats on the table. So it looks like we're getting a hat ceremony. I did like the fact that Nerman said still 6 months to go. I get that, and anything can happen between now and then. So here's the thing. If he picks Georgia today, great. But just be cognizant that Miami's not going to bow out of this. Oregon's not going to bow out of this. Ohio State's not going to quit. If he picks Ohio State or Oregon or Miami, Georgia's not going to quit. So I guess we'll call this the placeholder. But here's the thing. As much as we talk about guys flipping commits and changing, it doesn't always – most kids stick with who they pick when they commit. I know it doesn't feel like that because you see a lot of high-profile flips. That's because we focus on those. The vast majority of Georgia's recruiting classes, the kid picked Georgia, never wavered, or never flipped. And Georgia does flip some guys away, but in other words, it's a big deal. Whoever he picks today, that is the person by far in the catbird seat, and that's the school and program that, in his mind, will be where he's going. So the longer he stays committed, sometimes the harder it is to get him to uncommit, especially when it's a big deal like this. So.
Well, and this is a decision that has, I mean, obviously I just said he delayed it, but originally it was going to be he was going to take official visits and decide after that. So, but then it moved up. He decided he was closer to done than he thought. He set the April 30th date and then pushed it back. But still, this is one that kind of feels like, he wanted to get it done sooner rather than later. I guess that's Jackson talking with one of these guys here. Are we?
Yeah, one of his.
Got action?
It looks like a little video where he worked with one of his buddies. So let me pull up the sound there.
Like trying to, get better and having a purpose in everything I do. And I think that just the singleness of purpose that I've had trying to get better at football and get better at track, I mean, it's got me a long way. I mean, I think you don't get this far without having some kind of drive. So I think that's kind of what's kept me going.
How's this recruiting journey been for you? I mean, you hear a lot of stories from 5 stars. Is it gone as you expected? Is there stuff that you didn't expect?
I didn't really expect it to get this wild as of late. Like, it was pretty calm, almost considered at first, because I just didn't.
It got wild late.
I didn't have a lot of drive
Interesting
early on because I was a sophomore and a freshman.
It got wild late.
Out, so not a lot was really too stressful then. But like once I got to past my junior year of football season, it kind of the heat turned up a little bit, and it's been tough. It has, but I'm glad I've been through it, and it's changed me for the better. And I think
how many videos do you think you shot?
Really, really well tonight.
The funny thing is when I messaged him, he included a little parentheses with the S. So maybe more than one. Maybe more than one.
Everyone talks. I mean, there's a lot of.
And I've known kids to do that. They're like, "Hey, I've got the video crew. I'm still not decided. I'll shoot one for each, and then tell them which one to run."
Always done. What I've continued to do.
Can't remember who it was. Archer did that.
In a community,
he shot like 4 complete videos. It wasn't just like a final ending. It was 4 different ones. And everybody, I think he sent them to the schools, and every school's like, "Yeah, we're getting it. We're getting it." You'd all seen the video.
The younger athletes that are just now starting the recruiting process.
Can't always guarantee on that.
I mean, you've had a great support system with coaches and family and all that. I mean, what advice would you give to younger athletes like you?
I mean, just don't let it consume you, and just know the main reason why you're doing it. Have a why, and go chase that every single day. Have a purpose and know why you're doing something. Otherwise, it'll be tough. And I mean, you just want to. I mean, you want to do it for the right reasons. So I think that's a good thing to do.
Last question.
We got Lance joining us.
You got 4 schools in front of you. You got Georgia, Miami, Oregon, and Ohio State. What has each of these football programs done to make it this far in your recruitment?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things they've done. I mean, there's some schools that poured a lot of time into the past year, sometimes 2.
What's that, Lance?
I'd say 2, maybe even 2.5 years, depending on which school it is.
Can you hear me?
I think
yes, sir.
We're looking at program success. We're looking at offensive line development.
I'm not on vacation, so it might not be good news. Jermaine King says, "I'm here to hang out and hear the bad news." Shane Savant says, "This is the pre-announcement." Could be. I think this is something they set up at the school.
Good luck, and I'm excited to see where you go. Thank you, man.
Okay, here we go.
Thank you, man.
I think that video is done.
High School's Atos Center.
Lance, what are your thoughts as we watch this go down?
Today,
I mean, it's back and forth toggle, but I'm still positive on Georgia. Obviously, anything can happen, but
Dr. Gerald Oden.
Georgia, I'm kind of confident in those Sunday night posts that we had over on the vault.
Well, I mean, he was here. Georgia staff is hearing good things, so I think that's where they. I think that's where they were. I think that they kind of thought that. Let me bring Jed back on here. I think Sunday night, after they had hosted them, they were very confident where they were going to be, and now that has changed. So, I'll put it to you this way: as of this morning, they did not know that they were getting him. They may have thought they were getting him Sunday night, Monday. This morning, and here's the thing: when you don't know, you don't have that good feeling that you're getting a kid, then just kind of assume that you're not.
All sports, but today signifies us being recognized.
So we've got the superintendent of the schools there. He's talking.
The teams that are here recruiting kid from Nixon. And I know that we're going to support him. And I do wish he'd go out of
Lance, I'm gonna mute you.
But regardless, even if he goes with Georgia or Ohio State or any of the others, we're going to support him all the way and pull for him and cheer for him because he is setting the standard for others.
Jed, are you typing?
I'm really proud of him and the family.
I'm not like a weird like staticky thing.
But I have the courage at this time just to say once again, we're proud of him. We're excited about
Jed's all. Jed sounds like me after one of my 3-day benders. You just scratchy as hell. All right, so we got a coach coming up. Parents are sitting at the table.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for everybody that came.
That's a huge
it's
coach,
awesome
dude.
that you all came to support, one of our very own. Today was a big day for
Okay, you want to hear this?
Nixa. It's a big day for college football because the greatest offensive lineman in the country is going to commit to play somewhere in the United States of America today. So it's a big day. I would like to say, hats off to Jackson Cantwell because not only has he dominated, on the field since he was a ninth grader, he's done things the right way. He's done it in the classroom. He's done it off the field. He's done it, in every way imaginable. He's represented our school, our community, and his family extremely well, and that's a mouthful right there. From the first time I saw him when he was, I guess, in the 7th grade, a long, lanky, tight end.
Yes, that is a football coach.
Maybe. And then I met Dad. I don't know if he remembers. I met Dad in the barbecue restaurant. And y'all know how parents are, right? They're like, man, son's big kid, might be something one day. And I'm like, yeah, I've heard that a few times, right? But as it turned out, he did turn out to be something and something really special, and he has earned every single bit of this. Sometimes he don't get enough credit because everybody wants to throw in genetics. Everybody wants to throw in parents, that were Olympians. But what Jackson has done is work as hard as anybody in this school district. He's lifted weights, he's ran, he's done extra work, he's done everything in the world to give himself the opportunity to be in this situation that he's in today. So my hat's off.
6 months was
where he chooses to go to
long
school.
time.
Look, man, when you are the number one player in the country, there's not a bad choice on the list,
being asked,
right? I mean, I know they didn't flip a
coin.
coin, but I could flip a coin, and we will be 100% supportive and all in. And I think this community will rally behind Jackson Cantwell for the rest of his life, just like you've showed up today. So, hats off to his parents because without them, he would not be here today. They have been a huge influence on him. And has helped him in every form and fashion. So, he deserves everything he's going to get today. We're super proud of him. I'm going to introduce his O-line coach, the one that has actually made him who he is today.
All right, so that was the head coach. Now we're getting the O-line coach. And again, it's typical.
I included
let the guys
Thanks everybody for being here. I'm
who've
Coach
been
Medley.
instrumental in
It's my
his
privilege to stand here
development.
today, both
Get up
as
there,
Jackson's
talk about them a little
offensive
bit.
line coach, but
Let
also
the
his
let the
shot
lucky
coach.
school know what they're going to get.
This unique opportunity means that I get to watch him compete all year. So I see Jackson at least 5 days a week, sometimes 6, 12 months out of the year.
Matthew Daniels is going to be drafted in the
that's
NFL by the
been
time he
really
makes his
special for me.
decision today.
And
Hey,
hopefully
this
we get another year of it.
look, we waited
Today is
forever
about
for Broderick
recognizing a
Jones,
young
not
man
Broderick
who
Jones.
represents everything we hope for in an offensive lineman. We talk about it in our room all the time, but things we look for are strength, discipline, and
this isn't the
relentless
Christmas
effort.
pageant. I'll just put it that
All
way.
of these characteristics are represented by Jackson and the way
Curtis
that
was
he
home by
plays
now.
this sport that we all love. He's the kind of player who sets the tone in the weight room.
When's the last time
brings
Miami was
intensity
relevant?
to
Hell, they'll
every
be relevant if
practice,
they
and
keep
leads
spending money
with
at this rate.
actions more than words. But
We're
every so
expecting him to go to
often,
Miami.
he does speak, and when he does, people listen. As an offensive lineman, Jackson embodies a role that doesn't always get the spotlight. Most of the time, an offensive lineman is only recognized when they screw up, first by me and then everybody else.
Eligibility.
The success that we have does go unnoticed.
Oh, that's great.
A successful
That is great.
offense depends on the 5 to 7 guys up front. Ours
This is a
from
big
last year are
deal.
all sitting up
Nixon's
here.
milky. Dude, if this
I'm
was
proud of
happening in
them too.
Conyers, Georgia, I guarantee
But
you would be milking the
nobody
crap out
really
of that.
sees them. They kind of go in the dark as far as work is
When does the
concerned.
musical start?
I tell my players all the time
That was
God
it. I was
made
trying to
us all
remember.
so big
This
because
has nothing
we
on Isaiah
carry the weight of
Williams.
the team
Had to
on our
watch the entire
shoulders,
damn
and
Christmas show.
Jackson is the biggest of us
I
all.
think we went an hour
Being
deep
an
into that
offensive
one.
lineman requires them to show up early, stay late, and do all the dirty work without any
We've
fanfare.
had so many linemen drafted.
It's
Hopefully
about
that sells
protecting
him.
others,
Here's the
often
thing.
at the
Jackson's going to get
expense of
drafted no matter where he
personal
goes.
glory.
So,
But what makes Jackson different and special
I'm not saying that
isn't just
he should
all
not
of
come to
that,
Georgia and get
but it's who
developed.
he is.
Good.
Jackson is
against great
always
talent.
looking for ways to
But
grow and
a
continue
lot of the
to
guys
get
of this
better,
caliber,
not
they're
only
not really
for
thinking.
himself, but these guys sitting here too.
They're all they're hearing
My
is they're going to get
favorite
drafted
thing
regardless.
that Jackson
And
does,
a
and
lot
it's
of
kind of
it's true.
unique, I've never had
So
it as a coach,
it
is
doesn't.
that he shows up
It's not
on
a
Monday
strong.
nights. We finish
The,
varsity
the
practice.
developmental
He
angle
goes and
isn't
gets
strong
food.
sometimes. When
Sometimes
you have
he
a
showers.
number one player.
He at least puts on clean clothes. And then he comes down to the sideline and he appoints himself my assistant O-line coach. He is out there helping the JV guys with anything they need.
How are your rivals updates
talking
working
about
on 3? You'll be able to
footwork,
read on
giving
3,
reminders
and vice versa.
in between drives
excited
about
about that.
plays. And one
You're
of
gonna
the
have a
biggest
lot
things,
of,
because I'm really
a lot
bad
of
at
access
it,
to the
is
on-3
he
guys.
makes sure that
A lot of the on-3
everybody
national
gets
guys
in
are going to
and
be
that
coming
they
to
all get
rivals to
reps,
cover
because that's how
recruiting.
we get better.
So it's going to be.
He doesn't have to do
that's
that.
definitely a shot in
but
the
he
arm for
wants to.
rivals.
That's
And
just
your
because that is
subscription,
who
you
he
won't-
is.
You don't have to go anywhere.
It's been a privilege to
Something like
coach
that.
Jackson, and I'm glad that we have another season together and that he is.
Does Curtis fall into Miami now?
But he'll always.
Philip, that may be the most pessimistic thing I've ever heard about.
Congrats, Jackie. I'm super proud of you and can't wait to see what you do at the next level. Now, you all didn't come here to hear me talk.
Yeah, we didn't.
I'm honored to introduce the man of the hour, Jackson Cantwell.
Yeah, dude.
Thank you guys for coming out. It means a lot for sure. I mean, this isn't going to be too long anymore. I just want to thank, a lot of people I can thank. I'm sure I'm going to forget some, so bear with me. But I want to thank all my coaches that have put effort into me from start to finish. I mean, especially Coach Perry and Coach Medley. I mean, this has been a really important time in my life, and I really thank them for being there for me. I want to thank all my teachers that have spent time with me. I want to thank all my teammates, especially my trench guys, a lot of them right here. Love those guys. I'd like to thank Drew and Kyle for making this process go a lot smoother.
Sounds like a recruiting
I'd like to
pitch.
thank all the Nixon fans, really anybody with Nix Athletics or a fan of Nix Athletics. I mean, it means a lot. They show up every Friday. They show up really for everything, and it's meant a lot to this community for sure. And most importantly, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad because they've been there for me throughout this whole process. They've done a fantastic job. I love them to death. I mean, that's just it means more than you guys could ever know. And I mean, this has been a long time coming for sure. But I think at this time, I'd like to announce that I will be committing to University
There
of
it is.
Miami.
We're going to Miami as expected. The hat didn't fit. It's new. So Miami comes through at the last second and lands the number 1 player in the nation. So
This hat doesn't really fit, but thank you guys.
yeah, I'm not going to say about the fact that it doesn't really fit because it's brand
Thank you guys.
new
I
last
appreciate it.
second.
And that hat doesn't
So
fit at
Jackson
all, so I'm not gonna
Cantwell
wear that,
picks
but-
Miami. Not a
Jackson,
huge
We
shocker.
just want to follow up and say how proud of you we are.
I think Georgia was definitely in the driver's seat as of Sunday night, Monday
We're
morning,
very excited. for
yesterday,
you.
and today.
At
Even
this
last
time,
night,
we
folks
will
were
open it up for
talking
media
about
to
how
come up front. We'll do a quick press conference up here. in the
Georgia felt
section.
good up in their spots.
Question.
We spoke to our sources at
We would
UGA
like to go
last
ahead and
night.
play a video that was made by one of our
This morning,
graduates,
they did
Nate
not
for
feel
here. So we will go ahead and play that, and then
They were,
media, you're allowed to come up and
little,
do your press conference.
pessimistic. And here's the thing, not only pessimistic, they just don't feel good about your, when you don't feel confident in your choice, it usually doesn't go your way. So when they did not feel confident, that's when, and you heard Coach Donna, we had him on earlier today, and he's a man who's been through 1,000 of these. And he knows that think about how, even though Jared Curtis didn't make his decision known to his family until Sunday night, and then 2 days later picked Georgia, the Bulldog coaches were a lot more confident about Jared Curtis than they were in this situation. So when Drew Rosenhaus is your agent and he's a Miami alum and he's trying to get the most for his player, for his client, That's what's going to happen. So we've got stories popping up. We have a good one from Jed about what does Georgia do now? Where do they turn to next? Where do they go next? So he's launching that story. It's a very interesting take, what they're going to do. I'm actually going to go see a kid, hopefully, fingers crossed, Malachi Lee, big offensive tackle out of Hawaii. I'm going to try to get out there and see him. I don't know if he's around or not, but I'm going to go, go to Hawaii. But there'll be a missing out on Jackson Cantwell doesn't mean that Georgia doesn't have others that they're going to get. We really want to see that 1-2 punch of Jared Curtis and Jackson Cantwell together. Really want to see Georgia have dominance on the offensive side of the ball. Get those first-round offensive guys. Nothing wrong with having 3 first-round defensive players, but why can't you get 3 first-round offensive players? Get Mark Bowman, get Jared Curtis, get Jackson Cantwell, and Jared Curtis isn't going to stop. He's going to land some people, and you never know where this is going to go out. This is a good point, Jermaine. You use more money on other big fish. We saw that there was a prediction put in today for Tyler Atkinson to come to Georgia. I have never thought Georgia would spend enough money to get Tyler Atkinson. Well, maybe you got it now. I didn't know that you get Mark Bowman. Not to say that he's it's all about money, but I'm just saying the money that you had squirreled away for this kid, you go somewhere else. Now remember, that's what Texas did when they missed out on a kid. They turned around and plucked Justice Terry. It's not like this money disappears. So if you can get Mark Bowman, Tyler Atkinson, 2 or 3 other guys, then that's it's not a bad thing. Miami purchased players during the last minute, the same way I do my eBay shopping. He's a lurker, jumps in the last second. Would rather have Bowman, Atkinson, and Cooper. Yeah. If you could get Derek Cooper, good gravy. Now, granted, you got to have good offensive line. Right? No questions in my mind. But Cooper is special. Bowman, I will tell you this. One Georgia insider told me that he believes that Mark Bowman is as good at this stage as Brock Bowers was, if not better. That's not saying he'll be a 3-time All-American, but saying at this point in high school, Mark Bowman is Brock Bowers or better. So the best he'd ever seen. So again, that's one. And again, maybe another school pops up and gets him. So, and for those that get really frustrated with the recruiting, I understand. It is irritating when something like this happens at the last second. But remember, a few weeks ago, Georgia wouldn't have had the hat on the table. They made a run. Kid moved his commitment date back, comes to Georgia. Georgia does everything they can, and you miss out on one. It's going to happen. It's let me add Jed on here. You have that situation where at least once per recruiting cycle, you're going to have one guy that just goes away for the biggest amount of money. Jackson Cantwell now, Justice Terry last year, Caleb Downs before that. You can go down the list. And if you have one a year, it'd be really easy to just say, damn it, nothing matters, because the minute a kid commits, or the minute you get in on a kid, somebody's going to steal them away. You can't let the 1 out of 26 ruin your excitement for the class. I know a lot of people were really pissed about losing Justice Terry, but I'm like, did you see that Georgia's class last year was the number 2 class in the nation? So don't let the 1 out of 25, 1 out of 26 who pops off with the biggest bag sour you on the other 26 that you do get. All right, Jed, where does Georgia go from here?
Well, and I just pulled up or just published a story. You've got, Akani Agboko, who is the younger brother of Nnamdi Agboko, who was a defensive line signing in 2024. Georgia's up there with him. Malachi Lee, who, judging by the comments, Rowdy, you mentioned him already, a guy in Hawaii who has already taken an official visit to Georgia for G-Day. And, Georgia's right up there with him, although you don't have the great track record of landing guys from the Hawaiian Islands. BYU's in there. I believe USC's in his top schools, even Alabama, who's gotten Tua before. So worked through there, but there's a guy, Carter Scruggs from Virginia is one. Chancellor Campbell's a guy who's 6'8" and 300 pounds with a wingspan over 7 feet. That has got all the potential in the world. And then Wilson Zierer, who plays at the Raven Gap Nakuchi School, is going to be there this weekend. So, and then you've always got the camp offers, senior evals, all that kind of stuff that's got potential down the line too. So, like, this isn't like, it sucks. There's no way to sugarcoat it. It sucks. You were right there for the number one player in the class, a guy that, you know, you don't know how the depth chart's going to shake out, but a guy who potentially could have been a come in and start day one kind of guy. And that sucks. But there's also a world where you are more flexible financially to help you with some other guys. And I think down the line, you know, we've seen some of these schools that have earned a reputation of throwing money around, where you top load a class, but then, you know, does that build the best team essentially? So if this helps Georgia land a Tyler Atkinson, land a Mark Bowman, land a Derek Cooper, you know, I think at the end of the day,
exactly who we're talking about. Yep.
Georgia's class is still going to be very good and could border on elite on the offensive side of the ball with some of the guys that are out there. So, you know, this doesn't mean that Georgia's going to all of a sudden plummet to, you know, 40th in the country in the rankings. Like, they're going to be fine. And I think on the offensive line, they're going to be fine. But this sucks. I mean, because again, this is a guy who you've invested almost 2 years since you offered him. He's been on campus a bunch. You outlasted from Missouri. Yeah. And from Nixa, which is not a metropolitan area. Like, you got to put some work in to get to Athens from Nixa. So, you know, you outlasted Missouri, you know, way back when this was when Missouri's in-state NIL stuff was first coming about. And it's like, okay, well, Jackson Cantwell is going to do the same thing. You outlasted Missouri, you outlasted Ohio State, you outlasted Alabama. You get this late visit, and it looks like Georgia's back in the driver's seat. And then he's swooped out from under you in the last second. So it sucks. I mean, there's no positive spin on it. It sucks to lose a guy like this, no matter what, especially when, you know, 30 hours ago you thought he was yours. But I think there's still a lot of talented options on the offensive line where, you know, you get 2 or 3 of those guys I mentioned, and you add in a Desmond Green on the interior, or you add in a Malcolm Gaston or a Zakai Hilton, and your offensive line class will be fine. But it stings to lose a guy like Jackson Cantwell for sure.
Yeah, that's the thing, is it's really easy to focus on the ones you don't get and not the ones that you landed. And that's my kind of, I don't say pet peeve, because everybody knows I can be as negative Nelly as any of them. But when you look at the guys we've gotten, you know, the Jared Curtises, Keelan Jones, Marquise, Zach Fort, Vance Spafford, one of the best players in the nation. You've got some good kids. You got a lot coming in. Don't discount what they're doing for your program versus the ones that got away. It's the same when we talk about kids that transfer. We talk about Damon Wilson forever, you know, leaving Georgia, and, you know, why would he do that? Why would he go to Missouri? And I think it comes down to that, like I say, top heavy. I remember when this whole thing started, I said certain players will get purchased in the last second, but you can't do it for an entire team. Texas A&M tried it, didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
Ohio State was kind of successful in it, but a lot of those guys they won with were ones that were there. Notre Dame, same thing. We talked about some of their transfers that got them into better contention, but it still wasn't enough for them to win. You got to get your homegrown guys, and you're going to lose out on 1 or 2 because a Miami, a Missouri, a lot of schools can put in all their chips on one player, and you're not going to be able to stack players like you used to, like Alabama used to, like Georgia was doing the first part of Kirby Smart's tenure. Remember when Missouri went all in on Luther Burden? And that was it. They went all in on Williams, the defensive tackle.
Quinary, yep. He went to Missouri and is now transferred to Oklahoma, maybe, or Nebraska. I don't remember. He is transferred once, I know.
Right. So you had Luther Burden for a while, and you got him in. Of course, that made, you know, the leading receiver that year transfer to Georgia, Dominic Lovett. Well, the point is, if you are call them Missouri or Miami mid-level schools, but if you're not the traditional top 5 school, your people are frustrated. Your fans are frustrated. They will get up enough money to buy you 1 or 2 players, but they can't give you a 1 to 27, a 1 to 30. That is what, compared to what Alabama, Ohio State, and Georgia can sign every year. So you're going to lose a few kids like this in each class. So
and I'll wrap it up with this so I can actually go do my job, because recruiting never stops, as we know. But I think this class is going to be we heard Kirby Smart talk a lot this spring about the fire, passion, and energy. We want guys that want to play. We want guys that want to do this and do that. And I think you're going to start to see that show up in this recruiting class. And I think like they're not going to take guys who aren't Georgia level from a talent standpoint just because they love football. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I think you might see some guys higher on the board than a ranking might suggest, because the staff has identified that, especially coming out of spring now, when coaches have been on the road to see these guys. You're going to see the staff say, okay, this guy has the it factor, the Javon Bullard factor, right? The Kamari Lassiter factor. Of guys that just love to play football, aren't about the money. And listen, and Jackson Cantwell was obviously one of those guys that they identified as a fire, passion, energy guy, because they wouldn't have gone so hard for him if they didn't.
But, yeah, I mean, he has that. You heard him talking. He was promoting his school. That is a guy that we would get in every press conference, and still might.
Like, this is not Georgia didn't want him anyway because he just wanted money. Like, that's not what I'm saying. But I think when you look at when this class is done in December or whatever, I think you might see more of the, and rankings could change anyway, but like the lower, the unranked 4 stars, the high 3 stars. And I think Georgia is going to look at these guys and say, we are going to take the, if all things are equal, we're going to take the guy who wants to be here, who wants to develop, who has the burning desire to play football, and isn't going to come to us at the end of spring and be like, yeah, you know what? I think I had a pretty good first spring as a freshman. Do you think I could get more money? So I think this is going to be the class where you see that kind of play out, and who they target, who they end up landing. Kenny Agboko, that guy hadn't said a word about his recruitment in years. Like, he's a man of mystery pretty much. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how it goes out. I think that fire, passion, and energy thing has already, you see it servicing on the team at Athens, and I think you're going to start to see it trickle down onto the recruiting trail here in a few months. I should say.
I'll end with this: a lot of the agents are really pushing to front load these deals because they know the house settlement's coming. They're all trying to get that big payment up front because they don't know what's coming after that. You're going to have basically the equivalent of salary cap. So do it now while you can, and we're going to see. I won't say that the recruiting classes in the future will not be as hectic as this current one.
Mm-hmm.
But it would not shock me if we get a little more traditional when there's revenue sharing, and the agents can't cash in as much on one kid as they can now. So anyway, fingers crossed. All right, Jed, get to work, and I will talk to you later, folks. I appreciate all of you joining us. And